Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147, a code consulting and expediting firm here in New York City. Today, I have the privilege of having Francesca Bucci of BG Studio International. Francesca,
Thank you. Thank you.
pleasure to
Thank
have
you
you
so
on the
much for
show.
having me.
Of course. So, great story,
Good
as
story.
always, about the power of people and how you get to meet people.
Exactly.
Francesca was at a biz development network event, and we started to chat, and we were asking each other what we do. And Francesca was explaining to me that she does interior design work here in New York City, mostly in the hospitality and multifamily world. But then she piqued my interest, and that interest was, she says, well, I work on interior design of cruise ships. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So we started to chat. My wife and I love to cruise. We've cruised in a lot of different exotic places, and spending a week on a ship is an incredible experience. And walking around and understanding how much goes into that is amazing. So even though the show today is really about New York City, we're going to talk about New York City because you are based here in New York City. But we're going to jump into the global world. So thanks again for taking time out to come in and talk to me and our audience. So here we are. There's this company that decides they're going to spend a lot of money to make this beautiful ship. And how did you get into the business, first of all? Because I think that's a great part of it. And then second, how does the whole process evolve?
Let's start with me. So I'm the president of BG Studio International. I founded the firm 23 years ago. We are a woman-owned interior design, interior architecture firm. We specialize in hospitality. We do everything hospitality. And it's interesting how you mentioned one of our specialty also, it is multifamily. And slowly but surely it's becoming more and more looking like hospitality. I feel like that a lot of our clients find us because of our hospitality projects, and they really love the guest centered experience that we provide and we design with a lot of passion. And so they're taken by that kind of human centered experience that we provide, that we design for our spaces.
So you've taken the hospitality part of and moved it into the multifamily
Into
part.
the residential sector, yeah. And you'll see around, I think, multifamily in general, whether they're luxury rentals or condominiums in Manhattan, but also in areas that are not specifically in Manhattan, but commutable to Manhattan, like, some part of Jersey's and things that are really well connected to the city. Brooklyn, Long Island. There is a new building, a new luxury condo, a new luxury rental building every other day, and the clients are really looking for properties that are designed for various demographics with lots of amenities.
Right. The amenities are big now.
The amenities is a big thing. It's been a big thing for a while.
Well, yeah. Well, you could see it when you walk around Manhattan, right? And you're on the Upper East Side, and you're walking by, and you look, and you go, "Oh my God, that lobby goes down, and it's got a little desk, and it's like, ooh." And then you go, "Wow, they've really changed how you come into a building, right?"
And this is also part of what we do. We do a lot of renovations exclusively in the city, I have to say, mostly for condos. And the experience is really what the clients are looking for. And I think that having hospitality-driven design firm with this collective of experts
Yes.
in guest experience, it really it just says a lot.
There was a gentleman who came to Biz Devel as a guest speaker, and someone had and usually there's so many people that come. I've been a member for several years, right? And there's a lot of people that come and talk, and you remember specific things. And I always remembered that he said he had built in all different sectors, that he had built retail, strip malls, high end, like really fancy shops along 5th Avenue. And then he got into the condo world, and he was building condos, the same thing, really. And then he started building hotels, and he worked for this firm that built hotels. And he was saying that it was the most fun. He says, because when you go to a hotel, or we can talk about getting on a cruise ship, you're on vacation. There's a whole different right. There's a whole different thing. People are nice. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. And he says it's completely different than building a home. He said, because you want them to have the greatest experience because they're on vacation. And I it stuck in my mind that I think that for you to be a great designer in that world, you need that kind of mentality.
Exactly. You need the human centered, design driven point of view. There is no other way to do it. You really need to put yourself in the shoes of your guests.
Right.
And or in the shoes of your tenants, because especially in this multifamily condos projects, people, when they go home, people travel a lot, right? Whether on the cruise ships, hotels, and things
Whatever,
like this.
business,
And
whatever.
so a lot of the items, a lot of the design that they see when they are in vacation, now they're interested of having the same thing at home.
That is a great point.
Yeah, and even coming from starting from the lobbies, starting from the public spaces, starting from the amenities.
The lobby's always
we
critical.
Yeah, we want to have that kind of hospitality experience, and so the two industries are kind of coming closer and closer.
That's a great point. I never really thought of it that way, but I know for myself, when I go to Italy and I go to, Abu Dhabi when I was there, the thing that I always remember about every great hotel is the lobby. To me, I look forward to that environment. I
that
look forward to
experience,
where
yeah.
the bar is, what the relationship is with the people coming in, the people going out, how people are moving. I mean, it's just, to me, that's like the whole core. Yeah, you go to your room and the rooms are beautiful and all that. But my wife and I, we spend more time sitting in the lobby, maybe just relaxing, reading a book, playing cards. But that whole space is what you remember when you go and say, when people ask you, well, where'd you say? Oh my God, I stayed at this place in Florence. And you're like, oh, how was it? The rooms were great. The location was great. But, because they have a small, little, tiny lobby, right? That's a lot of parts of the country are very small and they can't have that grandeur.
The real estate, of course.
Right.
Nothing like the lobbies in New York City.
Right. Exactly. So we fast forward along, and here you are. First of all, I want to know how you got into the business of the cruise ship. That to me sounds like a story people want to hear about, because that's not the norm.
No, it's not the norm, and especially for people. I grew up in Italy, so in Rome, and I think that I always think about how did I get into this field, and the first thing that I always tend to say, well, it's a coincidence, but I don't really think it's a coincidence at the end of the day.
Right.
I grew up in an environment where Italians are very close to the sea, very close to the water.
Actually, I cruised out of Rome.
There we go.
Yeah, I flew into Rome, stayed by the Vatican for a few days visiting my friends, and then
you go to Civitavecchia, and you went from there.
And we went from
so there is this connection to the sea that I think is inherent to my particular heritage, and funny enough, even before starting architecture, I'm a licensed architect also. Before starting architecture in Rome, I actually wanted to go to the Naval Academy.
There you go.
So,
so this is not a coincidence.
Probably not. So my parents dissuaded me, rightly so, from doing that for a series of reasons. One of them, that I would be the only woman,
right,
in the academy. But then I went to architecture, and slowly but truly, kind of windy kind of road, I found myself with an architectural firm who was designing cruise ships. This was
In
before.
Italy.
No, in the US.
In the US. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was interesting to me. That's a new field, right? And the interesting part is like that at that time, and this was like more than 20 years ago, this firm was one of the 2 or 3 firms in the US that was doing that. And why is that? Most of the firms, most of the design firms, architectural firms are actually in Europe.
Of course.
Because the shipyards are in Europe.
Correct.
There is a maritime tradition in Europe, and we don't really build a lot of new ships in the US with renovations, but new builds, the shipyards are European shipyards. So it's obvious that a lot of designers and architects will be there. Not too obvious that it would be in the US. However, most of the clients are the US, most of the cruise ship companies are the US. So it became long story short, it became a business that grew throughout the years. And when I was already working on this field, and I was actually hired in this previous firm because I was a retail designer. I was designing retail, and there were some shops on board that they needed design.
It's a big part. It's a big part of the cruise ship
It's a
world.
big part of that, and from there I started learning all about what we got involved in with a.
So you started in the niche of the retail section.
Started in each of the retail and then expanded into all other venues. All other
Now they
venues.
have so many different.
All other venues of the ship, and it is a very interesting discipline, being a cruise ship design, because in essence, it's being a hospitality designer.
It's just a hotel that's
At sea.
floating.
Exactly, it's a floating hotel.
But what we've noticed about it is it's changed. It's changed because when we first went years and years ago, it was all about the food. It was all about this. Now it's gotten more about the spaces, the amenities that are there. There's more coffee bars. There's more lounges.
Exactly.
There's so much. There's other fine dining that wasn't there before. That now we go on the Royal Caribbean, and we stay in this part of the ship, and we get fine dining, and we could go to 5 different restaurants, and there's no more midnight buffet, and so you could see that the design of the ships. They've gotten bigger again. They just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Certain brands,
right? And the dynamics of the architecture has changed too.
Dramatically, I have to say, because like you just said, before was about the offerings that are. They wanted to make it a little bit special, just from the get-go, like a different experience from hotel, which is grounded, rooted to one location. It's one thing, and that's all you do. The ships was, historically, it was about destinations, right?
Correct.
It was about going to places, absorbing the culture,
right, and not getting on the Pirelli Tours bus and carrying your luggage all around Italy.
Exactly, and being at sea, this beautiful environment, and et cetera, et cetera. The more the industry evolved, it really did evolve into more of a guest experience,
right? Versus a destination.
Exactly, and because in essence, there is a lot of competition, and there are not a lot of ships. You'll be surprised in the world. I think that maybe, I don't want to say it's something wrong, but probably around 400 vessels.
Right, and if you think about this, 400 hotels within 20 blocks in New York City.
Exactly. So it's a small industry, right? And it really became more design oriented.
That's awesome.
More about the experience, and more about, like you said, like the specialty of the F&B venues. So it's kind of, in a sense, also became a little bit more. I want to use the word land based, because some of those venues are really designed and operated like they could be a restaurant in the city, or it could be any.
Even now, they have even in some of them, they have the circulation, and they made like a cafe, so it looks like it's an outdoor cafe on Fifth Avenue, but in reality, you're out on the sea looking out, where before they used to never put that that part of the ship.
No, it's exactly that. And it was kind of like we have a little bit of everything, but also the audience has become so expanded. And it's a very, very, very successful hospitality
The other thing
industry.
that I also noticed, Francesca, is that years ago, when we get to ports, we went to Italy first, and then from Italy we went to Abu Dhabi. And when we got to Abu Dhabi, we visited the mosque, and the architecture was amazing, right? And then we got on the cruise ship. And when we got on the cruise ship, you would say to yourself, okay, well, we're going to go to Oman. When we were in Oman, not everybody gets off the ship anymore.
Good point.
That more people we saw would get off maybe for a little bit just to get off, but they came back, and you would think, oh my God, there's nobody going to be in the spa. You can't get your. But there were more people. I don't know if it was the age group that maybe they couldn't get around, but there was far more people staying back than when we first started cruising.
Absolutely. And one of the factors is also that you probably didn't realize that, but there are so many people who cruise all the time.
Oh,
So
yeah,
a lot of people have been to Oman a lot.
a lot, right? So they're like, well, we did the same
Exactly.
thing. How many times can you get off?
Exactly.
in like me, you've been to the same place several times.
And so it's like now I want to see a new
Ship.
a new vessel, a new space, new little cafe that now it's like all of a sudden it becomes this kind of very successful venue, and maybe it's a venue that is been maybe it's a venue that is in Milano already, or
Right.
in Paris, or so there is a lot of co-branding also on a vessel.
Makes sense.
For retails, for F&B, just even we have Broadway artists,
Oh, the
shows,
theaters, and one had an ice skating rink. We were on. They had an ice
yeah,
show, and
yeah. So, but
the entertainment is a big part of the business.
it's a huge part. And from our standpoint, from the architectural and design point of view, it is it's such an interesting thing, because see, the ships is obviously they're challenged, quote unquote, by a lot of things, right?
Height.
It's like if you want to compare it to an hotel, obviously there are certain principles, architectural and engineering principles, that are essentially the same, but they also differ in so many other aspects, right? Like the structural part, the
Sure.
materials, the regulations, just in general, we have this kind of floating structure that doesn't have foundations. So I don't know how else to describe it.
And egress. What's
Right.
the egress? The egress is only going to take you to a certain point. We're not going to get to a public, safe place.
Exactly.
You're going to get to a place where they can displace you. But yet there's
It
still
is-
exit sign. There's still all of the things. But
Yeah,
but
and
when you get there, you're not going anywhere.
No, it's exactly that. And your exit strategy at the end, it's like are they're the life safety boats and things like this. God
Correct.
forbid something kind of an accident happens, but there are also a lot of other things, and other helicopters and all this kind
Sure.
of thing. So like it's very safe. But fundamentally, we design hotels at sea with a lot of challenges. And I think this is like what I'm mostly proud of, is that all those challenges, they need to disappear. You would never know. You
Right.
would never know that that is a specific materials, that is has a specific weight or specific coefficient of friction. You will never know that it's resistant to corrosion
Right.
in a certain
Well,
way. You will never know
I
that.
always say, how do they adhere all of these products to all this steel? Right?
It's
And
exactly
you look
that.
at the details where you'll see, they got glass, which is for the railings, and it's welded, but it's welded from steel to stainless. And how did they do that and not let it corrode? And it's
Look,
when you walk
the
around the
shipyards,
ship,
I know it's amazing.
especially if you're interested in looking at things. My wife will always say to me, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "Well, I'm looking at joint and that connection on how they welded that to make the deck look out over this and how they got it hanging off the
I
side
know.
of it. It's
It's
like,
no, it's amazing, and I think that it's a we're so proud of to being exposed to this type of training, because it really puts us at another level of expertise when we design hospitality.
I was just going to say that I did not, before you came on the show, I did not understand the correlation between being in the hospitality world, right? Whether it's a hotel or a floating hotel, we'll use the
Right.
word float, and the New York, specifically, the New York City market of taking this experience and trying to move that to the multifamily in New York City.
Absolutely.
Because people want to feel like they're living in a hotel that has the luxury and the feel and the vibe of a hotel, but it's their apartment.
Not only that, but the usually hotels, hospitality in general, they're very design driven, right?
Right.
And I have to say, some of the developers, they come to us for that quality of design, that kind
Right.
of originality and creativity, that sometimes there is a lot of freedom in designing,
Yes.
in hospitality. And when you apply to multifamily and condos, uh, we don't start from the point of view of, well, this is in the city, this is in this neighborhood, and yes, there is an integration, of course,
Sure.
of that, but we always start with the point of view of who is entering into this lobby,
Right. Who are you marketing this for?
Exactly, and how do they feel in this space when they go home? Think about also, maybe not too much in this, but even in the city, I have to say, but those condos that are in a little bit outside of the city, people maybe leave their homes, right? They turn into apartments, so they just kind of change, empty nesters and all these
Right.
kind of things, and so we always have this, trying to explain to the client that this experience, especially of people that come from very traditional residential living to an apartment buildings or a condo, it can't be so disassociated,
Right.
in a sense that we always invest so much, for instance, in the hallways, which is
Right.
the client
And
will go.
I remember as clear as day going to my mother-in-law's here in Queens, and her apartment was beautiful. The hallways looked,
Terrible.
oh my God, they didn't look like they never put 5 cents into them
I
in
know.
50 years.
And we always try to just highlight this aspect to clients. It's like when you go home, you go to your apartment, the experience from the public space to taking the elevator to going into the hallways and then transitioning into your private space,
It's part of the journey.
it needs to be curated.
Right.
And it's not about decorating in a certain color, in a certain way. Everything kind of really, it's that experience, it's that journey, needs to make sense.
I one of my favorite things is finding little boutique hotels in certain little cities, right? And you go in them, especially in Europe. They're amazing. They're amazing on how they are designed and built so efficiently in a
Yeah.
small space. So this year, not just to throw this out, last year, my wife and I and another couple, we were we flew to Rome, and then from Rome we flew into to Bari, and we went down to along the eastern coast, and we went to Vasto.
Okay.
And Vasto is a, for people that don't know too much about it, is very really not an American place. The Americans and the tourists, they all go to the other side and they go to Positano and
Of course, yeah.
Sorrento
Well, it's
and
Puglia,
yeah.
it's
So we go
yeah.
to Puglia and we go to Vasto, and there's not very many Americans. There's mostly Italians that are on vacation. And we went in September after everybody went home.
All right.
And the small boutique hotels that were carved into that countryside
I know. It's
were
amazing, right?
amazing. Amazing. And we're not talking, oh, well, they're 200 rooms. We're talking 25 rooms,
Right.
right? And yet they got a great restaurant. They got a small little
Farm to
bar,
table,
farm to table.
beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
just so to me, I think that vibe is also coming here, that it's not how much can we
rooms.
pack into this hotel anymore?
I know.
It's becoming like, hey, this is what the people want. They want this like you said, they want to come into this lobby. They want to experience the lobby, the elevator, the path to their room, their apartment, their condo.
Yeah, the mail room, is being a
What?
I know it was an afterthought. Right now, it's a place to socialize. All of a sudden,
It's the
where
water cooler.
yeah, it's where you meet people, and these mail rooms we design it, and I mean, again, it looks like it's one of the public space.
Right.
It's not a place where you go and you get your mail anymore. So everything becomes kind of really more social, more community oriented, more experiential,
That's a great point.
and I think like the industry and the market, in New York City is going in that direction. Of course, being New York City, everything becomes, you know, very expensive, of course.
And square footage is important
And
because
square
it's so
footage
valuable.
and square
And
footage is important.
and
Yeah.
for you, I'm sure that part of it is trying to get the right proportions for the mailroom versus the lobby versus that's not easy.
And this
That's
is
not
where
easy.
our experience with small spaces that we
From the
find from the
ships.
ship comes very handy, because when we start designing on the ship, we starting from the flow diagram, from the circulations, from the main
A lot of
structural
people moving
elements and
around.
things like this, which is super important, right? And in on the ship, every millimeters is. I've had discussions with shipyards about literally 5 millimeters
It's crazy.
of like
Material.
of a material of a countertop. So it is extremely valuable and extremely important, but it's the kind of efficiency that is required also for safety reasons.
Of
This is
course.
not, it's just
And
like
plus the weight of
an economic
materials and
scale,
yeah.
right? Exactly. There's so many factors that influence that choice of shape, of materials, of particular detail. And so when we come to land base, it's kind of a piece of cake for us.
Well, because you're looking at you're looking at those items and that design at a completely different elevated
Right.
sense of responsibility.
It's exactly
Yeah,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and I say sense of responsibility because if you're going to use 1,000 yards of this fabric and it adds another X amount of weight, and they go, well, we can't have that.
No, absolutely.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but yet when you go to a building, no, the structural engineer doesn't go, oh, Francesca, what kind of fabric are you using on the couch downstairs on the
No,
first floor? No.
it's exactly that. But no, it's a whole kind of knowledge and design driven industry that it's kind of really becoming one universe.
Well,
The
well,
residential,
kudos to you because you've made it one universe.
well, it's the
That
clients are very
that's
savvy, so we got the good indications of where we need to be, but the experience, of course, has played a huge
oh,
role.
it has to.
Of
So,
course.
so as we wrap it up, at the end of every show, a good friend of mine, Andrew Peters from Curry and Brown, he's an estimator, and he has a saying that the rear view mirror is this big and the windshield is this big. We always want to look forward. We don't want to look backwards.
Absolutely.
So here we are, 2025. You've been working in the city a long time. You've seen things evolve. We've seen buildings evolve. We've seen a huge influx of high end luxury
Right.
market rate buildings. We've seen a lot of big condos. We see townhouses. What would you say if you were to have one prediction, subjective, of course? What would you say the biggest change that's happening over the last few years in the buildings, other than what we spoke about already, which is more amenity spaces? But what do you think is the biggest thing that developers are looking for you to put in terms of their experience in the building?
Well, look, it's not that much of a kind of crystal ball kind of
Of course.
statement, but I would say more kind of based on experience and see what the clients are really requesting. Um, the I think from our point of view, the most important thing kind of really stays the public spaces of the buildings, and are the apartments becoming a little bit smaller because of that? Probably. We protest often about this, but I think the amenity spaces is what.
So you're saying that the developers are willing at times to give more public space and give them a little bit smaller apartment, and they think that balance is a little bit of the magic.
This is what seems to be the preference, and also is location driven, of course. We're on the East Coast, and the weather is changing, and we have various situations with cold and hot and things like this. So that also has influenced in New York City the type of the type of amenities that you that they
Offer.
offer. Exactly. Do we want like a rooftop pool in summer? Is there like a little bar? Is there
Right.
like an F&B component
Correct.
to
And we're seeing more and more of that on the buildings that we've
and a lot of kind of cross branding with even on the building, offering some of the spaces on the ground floor that traditionally were maybe dedicated to retail or things like this. Now we see more and more restaurants and things that are really part of the experience of the
of
building.
living in the building.
So it becomes this microcosm of lifestyle.
That's
Basically.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this was first of all, you're the very first person to come on this and speak about something dear to my heart, which is traveling the world on a cruise ship,
Of course.
and understanding, how difficult it is to put your creativity into a ship where there's so many design standards having to do with engineering and
Regulations and internationally.
sure, it's not just a code; it's an international
It
code.
is an international regulation. So all the cruise ships are under international maritime law and
Sure.
regulations. The IMO, the SOLAS codes, so the Lloyd's registers. I have a
Sounds
long
like a lot of
I
stuff.
have a long list. Well, the building code looks like a novel relationship to that. But
Well, we haven't ventured off into that code, but we do code consulting around the country. But we haven't gone into the international waters yet.
well, it's a good encyclopedia.
Yeah, I'm sure. Probably takes a lifetime to learn. But this was I have a great caption for our show, which is Beyond New York City and Designing, and that's what this show was about today.
And that's perfect.
And I've waited several months to get you here, and it's been a pleasure, Francesca.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sister.